Good day there, and welcome back to the channel. Yeah, chair still squeaks. Great. Anyways, so this is the follow-up, or part 2, or whatever you'd like to call it, to my overview of the Rippa lineup, how they kind of fall into place in my opinion, and also this clip will clarify some of the things that I had said in that video, particularly about the R57 and the R82. So we're gonna jump right into it here. As you can see from the page of Chicken Scratch Scribbles, this talking about these two machines and their origins is a big topic. But before we dive into that, I want to get some things out of the way that I've seen floating around the internet about these machines. So one of the first ones right out of the box is neither the R57 or the R82 are large machines. They are not. They are right at home at the higher end of the mini excavator or the compact excavator line. They are not a medium chassis machine. They certainly aren't large or huge or anything like that. They are very much a small machine. If you want to start using the words large and huge and terms like that, you start looking at 50-ton and up machines. Go stand next to one of those, you feel pretty small. Go stand next to a Hitachi 1200, you feel tiny. Those are large and huge machines. I just feel that when people use that terminology, I feel it throws the scope of the machine off, and it kind of makes them seem like this grandiose thing that they're not. And I believe that really inflates expectations. So to bring your expectations back down to reality, yes, they are on the bigger end or the heavier end of the mini compact excavator lineup, but they are by no means big, huge, large, any of that. Trying to give realistic expectations about the machines and their capabilities. Another thing that I've heard and I've seen kicking around on the internet is there's kind of a bit of a buzz that the R57 is available with a 4-way blade. Well, I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to ruin that for you. The R57, or as I know it, is actually the JT5600. For their 2024 model year, they had one with a 4-way blade on it. And that was the oldest pump style. And then in 2025, they had a refreshed version. And it was again with a 4-way blade. And it featured the variable displacement pump. Yeah, it's not new, unfortunately. So it's been seen before, and I have experience with it. It wasn't flawless, and it needed a little bit of refinement. I'm hoping that with Rippa saying, or the community saying that they can get the 4-way blade on the R57, that Rippa has dealt with some of the tolerance issues on that setup, as well as some of the control valve issues that I know we ran into on those 2 previous generations, and that we actually, or they fixed, the dealer fixed in-house before sending it out to the customer, so it would never be an issue again. So that's some myths out of the way. Now we're going to get into maybe some information you didn't know about these machines. When you hear the name Rexroth, you kind of think, oh, well, that's a kind of it's a knockoff name. That's, that should be, maybe that's a translation from something. Well, good news, Rexroth is actually Bosch. So if you have a Rexroth walking motor or a pump or any Rexroth component, that's actually a Bosch pump or a Bosch walking motor or a Bosch component. So same company that makes your parts for BMW, Mercedes, Porsche, or Porsche, however you want to say it. Don't come after me in the comments for that. But yeah, it's all German. So that's actually a nice little feature or a nice thing to know when you look at one of these machines. Then one other thing I kind of wanted to clarify from the last video is why I would lean towards the R340 instead of any of the Rippa Blue line. And that is because I like my machines to have tails. I don't like zero tail machines. Yes, I know my R15 is one of those machines. My preference is a machine with a tail. The R340 is a machine with a tail. That is a big thing for me. I don't work in spaces where having a zero tail machine is a big deal. It honestly, it doesn't mean anything to me. And you know, it's the specs I like about it. It has, you can get a thumb on it. You can run all your Rippa attachments. It's got a good digging depth, you know, sufficient for what I'm going to be doing. And the weight is a perfect weight for me to move it around and still be safe. So all those factors are why I lean towards that machine. And fun, interesting fact, for roughly $1,500, you can have that custom painted just about any color you want. So that's a neat little thing to know. All right, enough about all that. Let's dive into these machines and where they come from. Let's peel back the paint and talk about what's under the body panels. Okay, so we're going to start with the R57. Put a picture right here or something. Yeah, that one. The R57 is a conglomeration of two different Doosan machines. You have the undercarriage, house frame, and right side body components are of the DH60-7. So the Doosan DH60-7 models, that is where that bodywork comes from, the tanks, the way it's set up, the whole frame underneath the house, everything is Doosan there. Now, you'll see the rear panels, like the rear, call it a hood, engine access cover. That is actually off of the newer DX60-9C. And all they've done there is they've not highlighted the grills. On the Doosan, they're in gray, and they look to be a separate part. In the Rippa version, they're body color, and they appear to be all one piece. I believe that would be a way to get around any copyright infringement or anything like that. I don't know how that works in the Asian market, so I can't comment on it. I can only speak on what I see. And one of the other ways they got around that is the cab. The cab is not entirely different, but it's different enough. There was a brief time there where the 2025 JT5600 got the cab off the DX60, and it like directly looks like that cab, just with some different pieces in the interior. You'll notice that the rear is bumped out just like it. Now, it seems if these stock pictures are correct of it being the R57 Pro, and some of the ones I've seen online they've gone back to the 2024 cab. Now that again might be for the copyright things, it might be for patents. I don't know why. I have a speculation why, and we'll get to that in a minute. But that is what it is. So it's Doosan bodywork, Doosan undercarriage, Doosan frame. Now, the Doosan version, both the DH60 and the DX60 run a A.M.R.R. They're calling the Doosan version is the A.M.R.R 4TNV94L, and I'll put a picture somewhere of what those look like. While the R57 Pro runs the Kubota V2607. Again, picture somewhere. Now on their website, they're not hiding the fact that this is essentially a Doosan machine, which I find refreshing, which is nice. And they're listing it on their website as having Doosan in brackets Korea, slew motor, slew slash, wow, English, that's difficult. Your swing motor or slew motor is Doosan. Your walking motors are Doosan, and your main pump is Doosan, but I know it's a load sensing pump for 2025, 2026. That I know, because I've run them as the JT 5600. Now, it was a solid machine, like it was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. There are some things about it, though, that I wasn't really impressed with. And I hope Rippa has changed this and they've gotten better at this. Again, sticking with that cab design, they've gone back to the other cab. I did find the cabs to be a little loud. I did find them to feel like cheap and not really well thought out. Certain things didn't really belong in certain places. You could look in the molding of the plastic and you could see that, and it just didn't make sense. The other thing that I noticed too is while the R57, for lack of better terms, that I was running had an LCD screen or a display screen, it didn't have a backup camera. And I don't see why Rippa can't install the same screen from the R18 into the R57 and the R82 to give them that rear view camera. It's a built-in option in the R18 screen. I'm not sure what's going on there, and that's a department I'd like to see them improve in. I know that they're trying to get into the North American market and be a serious machine. Well, if you're going to be a serious machine, you have to have flow and integration with your parts and your products. That doesn't work. Not like you have the ability on one screen in one machine that doesn't really need it, and then you take that ability away into the machines that should have it. It doesn't work. It doesn't jive. That makes no sense. I'm going to say that the pump, though, the actual operation of the machine was very nice, very smooth. If the cab was just a little bit nicer, a little bit better put together, it would be a very enjoyable machine to run for many, many, many hours straight. Now, there was one glaring issue, or two, related to the same component. Major issues with the machines that I ran, and that was the thumb. The thumb was way too quick, and it was too short, and in being too short, it didn't line up with the bucket teeth, making it virtually useless. So again, it would be nice to see Rippa address this. I'm sure it's been brought to their attention, but again, they want to start competing. You have to get things like this right. And really, it can't be that hard. It should be running the thumb off the R32. Like, that's a good looking thumb. That style of design. Bring that to the bigger machines, Rippa. Like, come on. Get it together. You can do this. You have the ability. So that covers the R57 and its origins and what it is underneath. You are essentially buying a Doosan with a Kubota engine. For me, I like that. I'm not going to try and like naysay A.M.R.R engines. It's just they don't do anything for me. I'd rather a Kubota engine. That's just personal preference. You can feel about that how you like. That's fine. So we're going to move on. Moving on up to the R82. Now this machine is, again, another Doosan underneath. They're not so forward about it with this one, but that's all right. It's once you do some image searches, it's pretty easy to see where everything comes from. It's the R82, from my research, is based off of the Doosan DX80-9C. Now, if you look up DX80, you're going to run into the DX80R. And the R stands for reduced tail. Not zero swing, but reduced tail. It is not based off the R chassis, it is based off the C chassis, from my research. What we'll do is we'll just scroll over here and we'll change that up to if we look here, if we look there, that rear tail is not from the reduced chassis. The Doosan, so the DX80, runs the A.M.R.R 4TNV98-ZWD-B8 4-cylinder engine. Why? Why all the letters? And the R82, as far as I'm aware, runs the same engine. Virtually a copy of the Doosan, just different body panel colors. And the cab is different. We'll go over that. I'll throw some side-by-side pictures up and you'll see that the cab is different. That is essentially all they've done there. So from my research here, they have the same engine. They have the same pump, so it could be a Doosan pump, but they're also listing a Rexroth or a Bosch pump, and they're also listing a Hytek, so Hytek, name I've never heard of, so who knows what that is. They're also listing that Hytek as the walking motor and the slew motor. The walking motor and the slew motor are listed as ZHTE. I believe that's all Doosan. It just makes sense to carry that over, just like they did in the 57, right? Keeping mass production in mind. That as little parts change as possible is the best thing for production and keeping costs down. Now they are saying though that the Doosan pump is a variable displacement axial piston pump. So it's a load sensing pump. But it's a Doosan pump. It's not a Rexroth. They are saying that. There is some kind of conflicting information on these machines, but the biggest giveaways about where that comes from or where that information comes from is the body panels. Again, the body panels. They're essentially direct, like copy and paste, different color, painted a different color. The rear engine access cover, just it's blue instead of having the orange and the gray over the vents. The counterweight's identical, just black. The frame is identical, black. Undercarriage is identical, just black. Even the way the blade mounts, it's identical. It's just painted black. Track pads, black, identical. You can get rubber tracks for them. Or sorry, I guess I should clarify. For both the 57 and the 82, you can get rubber or steel tracks. The ones I ran had, the 57s I ran had steel tracks, and they worked great. They were quiet and they were good. I would go that way before I'd go to rubber tracks on one of these, either of these two. I'm not seeing an option for a thumb on the 82, which would be nice to see. But again, they need to step up the thumb on the 57 before they think about putting a thumb on the 82. They need to get that right. That needs to be correct. That is imperative. You're also going to see that on the right side panels, so 82, the Doosan version, it's missing a step. And again, we're all aware that this is just a Doosan machine. I don't know if it's, again, for the copyright stuff or infringement on something, but Rippa, again, just give us the step in blue and finish that body section off. That looks so bad and so cheap, and like, I don't want to use this term, but I'm going to. It just looks like a cheap Chinese knockoff, where they intentionally miss some parts to get around legalities or whatever, and the machine doesn't look finished. It honestly looks like it came out of the assembly line on a Friday where nobody cared and nobody put that panel on. It would really round out the machine and finish that up. It looked so much better. Seeing that just squared off part, just do better. Yeah. Anyways, carrying on. Now we're going to get into the cabs. So I'm going to show you the two cabs, the 82 and the 57. And you're going to see they're identical. And again, if you think about mass production, trying to be cost effective on things, and interchangeability between parts and ranges, it makes sense. And I'm not going to knock it. I'm not. I am good with it. I spent some time, some hours in those cabs, and again, if they were just a little bit nicer, put together just a little bit better, use some sound deadening here and there, they would be they would be a great cab to be in. Okay, right? You can't expect the whole world out of them. You're not paying that much for them. You're still paying, well, the 82, you've broken 110 grand. And that's a problem. when you get up that big, when you break the 100,000 mark, you need to have your game on. That's just customer expectations, consumer expectations. Nothing, flimsy and rattly and things like that. You can't have that. They'll just shy away from it. So the cabs are the same, but they share the same cab again as what's on the RS20. Now, you all know the RS20 as the RS20. I know the RS20 as the generation before as the NDI 680. I've put time into an NDI 680. I think they're a comparable machine, or competent machine, a competent machine. I feel they, again, could do a few things better. I, being only 5'6" on a good day, appreciate the visibility that having the excavator cab on the track steer chassis with the side boom gives you. The field of view is fantastic. I love it. I like the fact that you can run it with the door open, like an excavator, because there are times when you're in and out, and it works really well. I also find myself in a bit of a different position maybe than other people that might be looking at track steers or skid steers, in that if you've been around the channel for a little while here, you know that we have two dogs, two shepherds, and the one likes to come with me everywhere. She is Velcro. She has to be at my feet or behind me or sitting next to me. And I love her for it. I would never say anything negative about it. She's a sweetheart. But the excavator cab and not having anything on the floor because your throttle and everything is dial, or should be anyways, because I know the one did have a floor pedal, but I'd heard they were going away from that and keeping the excavator cab dial. And I hope that's the case, because that makes way more sense to me anyways. And it leaves the whole front viewing area open. That's where my dog would sit, would be on the floor. So that would work well for me. So that might be something to consider. But that also gets back to them keeping the same cab, like the same structure, same glass, same door, same all that. Now they have 3 machines that run the same components. That's cost savings, that's efficiency, that's parts interchangeability, that's just good business. It's really thinking. And I appreciate that out of Rippa. And that, to me, that's a positive thing. But it's something to be aware of, that there is this misconception that if you go up in size, you're getting a bigger cab. Well, not necessarily. So be aware of that. Yeah, if we want to quickly jump back to the NDI 680, the RS20, I'm sad to hear that they stopped producing them with the Cummins engine and started going with the A.M.R.R. Again, to me, that's a no-go. I ran the one with the Cummins, and I was very impressed with it. Serviceability kind of sucked, not going to lie, but you can get around that. It's a flippin' Cummins engine in North America. Hello, everybody knows what a Cummins is here in North America. That's just such a good marketing move, and then they went away from it. So, Rippa, I think you really screwed up there. You had a good thing going. Yes, so that's my explanation to all that. And now to touch on the last thing, which was my comment about Doosan purchasing Bobcat and where that falls in. In my image searches and doing my research on the internet, I started noticing that after that Bobcat acquired Doosan, both Doosan and Bobcat machines started looking similar. Not the same, but similar. And I also noticed that that's about the time Doosan started to kind of fade in North America, and recently they've come back as Devlon. So if you didn't know that, now you know. If you do purchase an R57 or an R82 and you find yourself in need of parts, depending on what the parts are, you might be able to get them at a Devlon dealer, because it might be a Doosan part. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so I think that's about it for me. Yeah, pretty much covers everything. Otherwise, I'm just going to start rambling about nothing. Drop your questions or comments below. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. Rippa, if you're watching this, and I really don't think you are, but if you are, send me a 57. Send me an 82. Let's put these to work, and I'll give you some feedback on them. Maybe I'm entirely wrong and biased, and I need my eyes opened. Maybe I'm onto something. You never know until you get the bucket in the dirt. But yeah, so till next time, you go on ahead there and you take care and stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next video, which will be on a machine not necessarily working, but doing something pretty cool. Anyways, we'll catch you later.